Hi folks, so the title of this video is misleading if you're really looking at those words in a very literal way, and I mean in a romantic way. I mean in terms of love being romantic love and marriage being a marriage between two lovers or two people who are going to spend their life together. That said, it is an elusive title, and it alludes to themes related to love, relationships, money, all of which are coming up to some sort of a boiling point around the time of this full moon, which occurs tomorrow afternoon, I think 11:48 a.m. or so for me, Pacific time, so that's the 28th. So in some parts of the world, it's going to be the 27th, in some parts of the world, it's going to be the 29th. You can take a look online and see what time the full moon in Libra is happening for you. As those of you who watch my channel regularly know, full moons are a time, as far as I'm concerned, of a certain amount of emotional and intuitive intensity building up. Now, they can bring clarity to a situation in a very intuitive or an instinctive way, sometimes therefore in a kind of an disturbing way, because it isn't in a rational way, typically. It isn't something concrete as much as it is something coming to light or something starting to make sense in a certain way. If you guys are familiar with the moon card in the Rider-Waite Tarot, and only some of you are going to be, it does have this kind of instinctive, the wolves are howling and the lobster is, it has this kind of animalistic, instinctive flare-up. The moon also, archetypally, astrologically, rules our emotional life, so that can be an emotional meltdown, things coming to the surface, a greater amount of reactivity. But as I always encourage in my full moon videos, it becomes a question of whether it is you who is having the meltdown or someone else is having a meltdown, either directed at you or they're sharing with you. Pay attention to what is being revealed, because chances are it's a buildup of emotion. As I say, it's the milk that comes to a boil and spills over, or the water comes to a boil, or something comes to a boil and kind of can't be contained. In a positive way, it can be completions. So contracts being brought to you, offers, the limelight, being pushed into the limelight in some sort of temporary way that can be exciting and fulfilling. All of that can be at play. It is a full moon in the sign of Libra, so going back to the title of this video, Love and Marriage, Libra is the sign of partnerships and marriage. But partnerships can be contracts. Partnerships can be handshakes. Partnerships are me and you and how we interact with each other. A client signs up for an astrology reading. Do I show up on time? Do they show up on time? What sort of a conversation do I have? What sort of exchange is done? Do we continue to consult in future? Is it a long-lasting relationship? What are the characteristics of the relationship? What is the nature of the give and take? What are the nature of the agreements that are verbally spoken or written? For example, a client is a minor form of partnership in most cases as far as the 7th house is concerned. Marriage, anyone you sign a contract with, a legal document, anyone you make an agreement with, your relationships, the quality of them, is very much part of this. At the time of this full moon, which is both disturbed and disturbing, but curiously, oh my lord, offering some sort of long-term goal fulfillment and stability. It kind of contains these two halves. On an immediate level, it's likely to be disturbing because you have the Sun, strong in Aries, Venus and Chiron, right next to each other in the same degree in Aries, opposing a full moon in Libra. Aries, the sign of me, my elemental truth, my childlike, unvarnished, authentic self and truth, and Libra, the sign of politeness and courtliness and velvet glove over iron fist and partnerships and considering the other person and striking the right balance between me and you. Uncomfortable. The Sun is in Aries, illuminating this part of our chart. The moon is opposite in Libra. We expect full moons in the opposite sign to where the Sun is at. Obviously, that's how a full moon is created. But the Sun is conjunct to Venus and Chiron. Venus, the planet of the arts, yes. Luxuries, yes. A certain kind of sensual enjoyment of earthly pleasures, yes. The passive or the feminine aspect in the relationship, I mean passive archetypally. We all, whatever our gender or gender identification, have Mars, the male self, and Venus, the female self, in some part of our chart. More importantly for me, as those of you who watch my videos regularly know, Venus for me is the planet that governs, among other things, in the way that we experience life on a day-to-day basis, relationships and the money and the nexus and the connection between them. As I've said on this channel before, I believe that more often than not, the quality of our abundance is directly linked to the quality of our relationships. So my quality, my relationship with my abundance, my income, how I experience the financial side of life, naturally will be directly impacted or linked to the way I relate to my astrology clients, for example, or whatever business I might be in. The nature of that abundance, because, in the way that it is shared with people around me, could be friends, could be family, could be spouse, can be partners, could be parents, could be whoever, is also in the quality of that sharing and the way that it is experienced directly impacted by the nature of the relationship with all those people. Are they good, healthy relationships? Is there something shady going on? Are they problematic? Is there a lot of conflict? All of that has an impact on your sense of abundance. If someone is going through a divorce, first and seventh house, Aries and Libra, are coming together, my money, your money, our money, the quality of our abundance dependent on the quality of our relationships. How are we experiencing it all? When planets conjunct the sun, traditionally they're considered combust or powerless. This would be Venus, this would be Chiron. I like to think of planets that conjunct or go through the sun as somehow being burned off, purified, refined, put through sort of a cleansing fire of the sun. And I experience it much more as a reset, as the completion of a cycle and the start of a cycle in some respects, but as a reset. And it's very likely that we're going to be finding ourselves in a place where for each of us, we find that key relationships and perhaps key financial matters and the impact between relationships and finances. And also when Chiron is concerned, a powerful sense of wounding or feeling wounded or being wounded, or more importantly with Chiron, some sort of a primal wound we carry through our lifetime that we get to heal by the time we approach the age of 50. This is not a video about Chiron. I'm not going to expand on that a great deal. But our chart always suggests, and what I find with Chiron is wherever Chiron sits is where this kind of, I think of it a little bit as a bleeding heart kind of feeling of, that's where the chart imprints this kind of wound that goes back and is felt and is somehow accumulated, that's not the right word, or created as early as in childhood, and that imprint continues to be felt, and patterns and relationships follow certain patterns and codependency patterns, or wherever it sits. If it sits in a particular part of the chart that stands for a relationship, like a mother or a father or a spouse or a child, then that's where Chiron is found, and that's where someone may experience some sort of a primary problem or hurt or that they can't quite solve. The nature of the Chiron wound, of course, is that you do have to experience it, and it's in experiencing it, this idea of wounded healer, it's in experiencing it as you head towards the age of 50, in re-experiencing it through the maturity of being in your late 40s and heading towards 50, that you finally start to understand it and learn from it and remove the triggers, unhook the wires that have been keeping you operating in a certain way, like a puppet practically. It's a wound that runs you. Well, when Venus and Chiron, the Sun and Venus have already met up over the last week. The Sun and Chiron are going to meet up in a day or two. And Venus and Chiron are going to meet up in a day or two. There's something that really suggests that some crucial or critical something related to our relationships, our approach to love, our approach to sharing, our approach to give and take. Remember, the full moon is in Libra. Libra is a sign that is ruled by Venus, and Venus is opposite this full moon. So not only is the full moon in the sign of Libra, the sign of sharing and partnership and give and take, and who am I and who are you and what does it take for us to work together, and how do we recover from our challenges, and how do we enjoy each other, and how do we sacrifice some part of ourselves to make room for the other person, is opposed by the planet that rules it. And I can't help but think that something is ending relationship-wise, and in terms of the connection between a relationship or a set of relationships and certain patterns related to money. We are getting done with something. We are done with something. And in some strange way, as difficult or challenging or painful as that might feel, there's also the groundwork being laid to experience a certain amount of healing around it. Are we walking out the door in certain relationships? Are we letting certain things be done? Are we giving up on something? Are we surrendering on something? Are we giving up a fight? Are we leaving the building, proverbially speaking, in certain cases? Are we locking the door and throwing over the key so we never find it in certain cases? Are we solving something? Are we putting an end to a pattern, whether we choose to fight it or not? Where fighting the pattern seems like an overwhelming, unending task, we just decide that we're going to be done with it somehow. Are we coming to terms with, in some respects, as I mentioned in the new moon video I did 2 weeks ago, the new moon in Pisces, there could be a theme of deceit, deception, backstabbing going on, and the two transits that are active at the time of this full moon and imprinted, one of them is now Mercury conjuncting Neptune in Pisces. Mercury, the planet of thinking, communication, conjuncting Neptune, where a certain amount of loss is associated, and sometimes that loss is created through theft or deception. I'm going to put a link to the new moon video in Pisces at the end of this, so please do watch that if some of that resonates, because I expand on this Neptunian quality more there. Neptune rules Pisces. I talked about it more there. I'm not going to talk about it a great deal here. We've got plenty to talk about. But Mercury conjuncting Neptune, after about 2 weeks ago, we had a new moon where Venus, the planet of love and relationships and money, conjuncted Neptune, could either mean that there are further developments now in terms of communication or contracts related to that Venus-Neptune conjunction. It could have to do with the arts, definitely with Venus and Neptune, inspiration, creative flowing of some kind, and I hope that that is the case for some of you. That would be a happy aspect of this. It could be around spirituality and renunciation, meditation, listening to the music of the spheres, disconnecting from a certain amount of reality, and if that is your path and you're pursuing a certain kind of isolated drunkenness, and I mean that with a certain amount of affection, but also warning when it comes to spiritual matters, sure, bully for you. But if it does have to do with some kind of deception, then it could very well be that something is coming to head with this full moon, or murkiness, or loss, where there's a communication aspect to it that will start to come to the fore. The presence of it has got to have been building over this last week before the full moon, 48, 72 hours before a full moon, 24 hours after, and then action may continue to be taken over the next week or so as Mercury and Neptune head towards that conjunction. The other transit that is so forward-looking and so foundation-building and has an element of hard work but permanently building a foundation around it, is that Saturn is continuing to trine and getting closer and closer in its trine to the North Node. Saturn is in Aquarius. The sign of Aquarius now plays a very important role not only for the next 20 years, but certainly till March 2023, and most certainly in 2021. So dealing with patterns, being careful not to fall into the path of least resistance. I'm going to dig up videos that I talk about Saturn and Aquarius and put that at the end of this video too as a reference. And how working with wherever Aquarius is in your chart in a diligent, disciplined way, in a way that monitors and avoids long-standing patterns and behaviors that undermine you, to create a forward-looking foundation that is going to help with your growth as a human being and with the lessons that you're here to learn and your path to success, are continuing to be imprinted in this full moon as well. As I said, it's kind of this very weirdly bifurcated. On the immediate sense, there's something that is coming to the boil, but then as something comes to the boil and as you're dealing with that, it's very much about, it feels like either tie those loose ends together or snip them so that you can focus on the future. Again, that theme is very present in this first 3 or 4 months of this year. It keeps coming back and keeps coming back. And in some cases, with this full moon and the work in Aries and Pisces, the Aries and Libra, has a slightly addictive, codependent quality to it by the very nature of the opposition. And so we could find ourselves much more focused and preoccupied by these places where loose ends need to be tied, or relationships need to be snipped, or bad financial habits need to be snipped, or something along those lines. Or the right kind of, when you have a full moon where the sun and other planets are in Aries opposing the moon in Libra, somewhere, you have got to be thinking about, who am I in relationship with other people? Who am I? What is right for me? The sun is powerful in Libra. The moon is powerful. The sun is powerful in Aries, forgive me. The moon is powerful in Libra. Venus is not powerful in Aries. Chiron is in Aries, irrespective. Who am I in relationship to other people? What the hell is going on here? I'm changing the title of this video. The title of this video is going to be Love and Marriage. And I referred to it at the beginning of this video because I thought about it, but it's going to be what the hell is going on here. Because that is what it feels like. That's what this full moon feels like when it deals with past issues related to money, relationships, healing, wounding. And everything I said before up to now applies. And it also takes us out of this kind of restrictive definition of love and marriage. Love and marriage is the catchier title, but what the hell is going on here is catchy enough. Mercury conjuncts Neptune. Saturn trines the North Node. And the full moon trines Saturn. There's something about this what the hell is going on here feeling, and a need to burn off. Remember, Venus and Chiron, your wounds, the wounds that you carry through this lifetime, and Venus, the planet of relationships, money, maybe the arts, maybe there's a creative rebirth happening. Maybe there's a creative rebirth happening. Your approach to your finances, your approach to your sense of abundance, your approach to the luxuries. What does it mean to lead a good life? Both in terms of the relationships that you want to be in and want to attract, and the lifestyle you want to attract. The wounds that you carry, something is being burned off here. And at the time of this full moon, this uncomfortable, 3 planets opposing this full moon that is, yikes! What the hell is going on here? And if you are hurting, if you are agitated, if you can't put your finger on it, remember with that Mercury-Neptune conjunction. And, a friend of mine texted me and asked me if Mercury was still retrograde. And my immediate response was, no, what's going on? But then as I reflected on it, Mercury is very weak in Pisces. Mercury, the planet of, can you give me a date? Can you give me a time? What do I need to write here? Here's a message for you. Here's what's in the email. In Pisces, which is like, do I have to be articulate? Can we just swim in the primordial goo and just in the ocean? And can we just be fishy? Pisces, the sign that will never be pinned down. Pisces, the fish, that every time you try and grab a Pisces and try to pin them down, they're just like, whoop, slip away. Not going to commit. Not going to commit. Attractive, listening to the music of the spheres, intoxicated, inspired, but can't be pinned down. It's not a reliable sign. Now, we all have Pisces in some part of the chart, and some people will have a Pisces moon or a Pisces sun or a Pisces ascendant, and will know what I'm talking about. Pisces is a sign that is ruled by Jupiter, as in Sagittarius, and both these signs, Sagittarius and Pisces, are notoriously independent and will not be pinned down. Even if you pin them down, they will just kind of mentally not be there. They just won't be there with you. So, my darlings, what is going on with your financial affairs and your relationships especially? Are you dealing with something that feels murky and deceptive? Is something coming to a boil? Are you having a full moon moment? Blood pressure rising, not being able to sleep, instinctive alarm, not being able to tell what is entirely real and what is not, what is imaginary, what is not, what is built up in your imagination because your mind is trying to articulate or pinpoint what it is that is going on. You could be dealing with technology issues. I did a video 2 days ago. I'm having the same bizarre, as Mercury entered, the moment Mercury started to enter Pisces, I started to have trouble uploading my YouTube videos. Go figure. And I made a comment about it last time. And I had the same thing. I did a video 2 days ago, and I'd been trying to upload it. And it has to be something with the YouTube interface or something like that going on, because all of the functions seem to work. So, it is one of these things. Now, one more thing about this full moon I will tell you. The next eclipse, the lunar eclipse in Gemini, the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius is on May the 26th. March the 26th, yesterday, was 2 months before May the 26th. I will always maintain that the week before and week after March the 26th bring up important signs and important developments related to this eclipse in Sagittarius. Part of the reason why this full moon is so activated is because there's so much going on. We've got Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius. We've got Mercury and Neptune in Pisces. We've got the Sun, Venus, and Chiron in Aries. We've got Uranus in Taurus. We've got Mars in the North Node that just conjuncted yesterday in Gemini. 5 signs. And when you look at Mars in the North Node in Gemini, then you've got to pay attention to the fact with the North Node, always the South Node is in Sagittarius. So the eclipse axis is activated by nature of the fact that yesterday, 2 months before the eclipse, Mars and the North Node had a conjunction. Mars opposed the South Node, where the eclipses are taking place in the first half of this year. In terms of it being a complete cycle, December 14th, May 26th. So February 14th, week before, week after. March 26th, week before, week after become important. Eclipses are the most important transit of the year, even if they don't feel like it. And rarely is that the case, but the first half of 2021 is certainly the case, because Aquarius and Pisces have taken a lot of importance and a lot of attention. In Pisces' case, whatever's going on with Pisces right now, we're still under the influence of that new moon in the middle of March. Remember, we'll lose this first phase in terms of intensity with the Venus-Neptune conjunction and the Mercury-Neptune conjunction by the middle of April, but then mid-May to end July, Jupiter comes in here. And then next year, Jupiter comes in here to create its ending and new beginning of a 12-year cycle, some of that happening over the summer. So Pisces temporarily will start to gain a certain amount of importance too. And if you know your chart, what is going on, you'll be able to see where's Aquarius, where's Pisces, where's Aries, where's Taurus, where's Gemini. All of this is aflame. And where's Sagittarius? What needs to be released? Signs around that are here. And remember, what needs to be released sometimes is a physical object. Sometimes it's a set of behaviors and patterns and attachments that are no longer serving us. Sometimes it could be that we have to take less action. Sometimes it could be if we have been taking very little action in this part of our life where Sagittarius sits, it could be more action. I'm going to deal with the eclipses in a separate video. That's what my video 2 days ago was about, because I wanted to honor the March 26th date and the Mars North Node conjunction. But it wouldn't let me. Maybe it was all meant to happen as part of this one video. I'll tell you, after I did those 2 videos before the new moon video I posted and my last couple of videos, when I finally did a video that I could post, I was like, aha, I like this one more than the others. Happy full moon, you guys, even though it's very likely to be quite a disturbed, alarmed, frustrated, kind of I'm done full moon. Remember, if you're dealing with murkiness and deception and gaslighting and backstabbing behavior and thieving behavior, it's not quite done yet, because this Mercury-Neptune conjunction, which I think is done by the end of this month, at the end of March, if I recall correctly, either there's communication around it that's going to try and lead to some sort of clarity, or there's going to be an attempt to it, or you're going to be dealing with it in some way, or the communication itself is going to be murky. There is some sort of a conclusion around it, but I'm not expecting the truth. With a Mercury-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, it may be possible that you are done and you let go of the murkiness and the gaslighting and say, I'm done trying to make sense of you. Actually, that's what this full moon is about, between Aries and Libra. An acceptance, a surrender, and a release. An acceptance, a surrender, and a release when it comes to certain relationships in your life. You and your work environment, you and your bosses, you and the company that you are with or you have joined. I accept what this is what I will change, this is what I will fight, this is what I will let go. You may not be at a point where you need to release or walk out, then that's okay. But there might just be a part of Who am I authentically? What is going on with my relationships, my attitude towards money, and these fundamental wounds that I have been carrying, or the primary wound that I've been carrying for my life? And this full moon brings something intuitively, instinctively to the surface. When we find ourselves to be a victim in relationships, sometimes there's something within us that we have to solve, a frequency we have to let go of. Not easy. So that we ourselves stop getting hooked to those processes, because there could be other people around us who fall into that victim pattern in different aspects of their lives than us, so there is this question of what frequency have I been operating in, and somehow continuing to move away from that frequency, so that certain type of situations where you find yourself victimized through a certain amount of murkiness or gaslighting, with that Venus Neptune and Mercury Neptune conjunction, you can finally put an end to. You can finally rise above. And the moment you start to operate at a different frequency whatsoever, then those situations that got attracted to you can no longer kind of find their hold on you, because you yourself don't do the snake and mongoose dance with them. Your shadow self, this idea of the shadow self that sabotages us, that has its own needs that need to be explored, because part of those needs could be a certain type of attention that it needs, or a certain kind of approval that it's looking for, a certain kind of affirmation that it's looking for, that keeps it in certain relationships where ultimately you may find that you are becoming a victim. We all have these patterns somewhere. So again, the theme of love, marriage, partnership, culminating in a sense really right now with this full moon, what the hell is going on here, and getting to a place where you can really continue to move through the cycle of acceptance, surrender, release, where applicable. Very appropriate as far as this full moon is concerned. Take it easy on yourself. You will remember, you may feel like, oh my God, the full moon is here, I should be doing this, and I should be doing this to protect myself, I should be doing to capitalize on this. The days after a full moon, the 4 or 5 days after a full moon, are the best days to be productive in a month. The energy is so well balanced in terms of getting things done. So, and especially with that Mercury-Neptune conjunction, whatever efforts you need to make, if they have something to do with communication, to be able to ask the questions, communicate, stipulate, put something out, whatever you need to do in terms of speaking, writing, communicating, taking care of contracts, drawing some lines in the sand, asserting yourself, asserting the right kind of boundaries in partnerships. And it doesn't have to be conflict. So if this is happening in a work area, you might just decide, you might just make, if this is happening in a work environment, it could just be that you don't have to literally raise up a white flag, or even metaphorically, but it could just be your own internal discussion around, what battles am I going to fight, and what am I not? Am I here to morally change the work environment that I'm in and make it a better place? Or why am I coming to work? Where does work fit into my life? Where do these relationships and partnerships fit into my life? So what battles am I going to fight? What battles am I meant to be fighting that I'm being paid for? And where will I make suggestions and find a way to constructively get to wherever it is that I want to get to, and then leave whatever needs to be left? That could be a healthier approach. So it doesn't all have to be a literal surrender and a walking out. I'm going to leave it to this. If you found this video useful, please feel free to share it, like it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button to be notified when I do videos. My contact information is in the description box, so if you want to inquire about rates for readings, or wanting me to create an easy-to-read version of your birth chart that tells you which planets are in which signs and in which houses and what those houses stand for, feel free to inquire using that email address, and I'll send you my rates, and you can determine if you want to move forward or not. Pay attention to, if you know where the sign of Sagittarius sits in your chart, it's not going to feel like it's taken priority right now, because there's all this activity going on in other parts of the chart. But it's a reminder, because between this 26th date and the 26th of May, something related to that eclipse is now going to start to snowball. So see what needs to be done as a gentle reminder, put it back up to your to-do list, and start to give it some attention so that you can release whatever it is that needs to be released so that your boat can move in the right direction. Okay, more on that in a different video. Take care. Bye.